Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Fraternity Foodie episode number 19. This is Mike Ayalon with Greek University, and we call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because we love food. We love to hear where our guests like to eat, so stay tuned for that at the end of the interview. Today, we have another big treat. I feel so blessed to have amazing friends that are participating in this project. Today, we have Joe Rosenberg. He is the Executive Director at Kappa Delta Rho. So welcome, Joe.
All right, welcome. Thank you, Michael. Nice to be here.
Yes, excellent. We're very happy to have you. So let's talk a little bit. I have a few questions for you. I know that you received your bachelor's degree in military history, of all things. So fascinating. That's another whole conversation. But that was from Temple University in Philadelphia. So what made you choose KDR at Temple?
So when I was at college, I was a non-traditional student. I actually started at Penn State and had a little bit too much fun there and took some time away from school and got my act together, went back to school, and I started college at Temple when I was 21. And Temple's very large, as you know. It was 30,000 students at that point. And I needed a place to call home, a safe harbor, so to speak, and a real good group of friends to connect and have a network. So that put me into the recruitment, looking at different fraternities on campus. And what was interesting was I didn't look for KDR. I was going totally to become a Sigma Pi, as you and I joke about a lot. And one of my dear friends from undergrad, other than outside of my chapter, are Sigma Pi's. But I was recruited basically using dynamic recruiting techniques that Fired Up teaches before Josh and Matt coined it. My RA was a KDR, and I didn't know it. And every day he would have wiffle ball tournaments in the back with other guys on the suite or in the building with his friends. Well, no one knew his friends were KDRs. And we'd play wiffle ball, go play football, go grab pizza or a drink down at the bar on campus at Salad Alley. And then one time in the middle of recruitment, I get a knock on my door, and there's 10 men in blazers and ties handing me a bid, saying, "We want you to join our organization." And these 10 men were the same men that I've been playing with wiffle ball and football and going out for beers with, and had no idea they were in a fraternity. And, at that point, I'm looking for a group to really connect with and network. I found it, and here there's this whole nother avenue or layer of that friendship that I was going to be able to really take a part in and explore, which really that moment set the rest of my life up until now.
That's an amazing story. I'm sure a lot of undergrads are listening to that and thinking about their own recruitment techniques as you talk about it. And I'm sure Don Cox over at Temple Sigma Pi is still very upset that you didn't go Sigma Pi, but things worked out great, I'm sure, for you at KDR. And I know they're very happy to have you leading the organization. So it all worked out. And the other interesting thing is many people might not know this about you, but before coming to Kappa Delta Rho, you actually worked at Temple, Bucknell, Albright College, Hollins University, and then eventually worked at Greek Life at Radford University as well. So what are some of the positives of working within higher education, and what are some of the drawbacks as you see it?
So a lot of there's more positives than negatives. I was very fortunate enough to be the assistant to the associate vice president at Temple when I was there, coming out of grad school for Crystal Wernicke. And I was very blessed to have her as a mentor early on in my career. So I was able to learn the balance of politics on a college campus with Greek Life, and the importance of getting the organizations connected with different departments within the college to start breaking down the stereotypes that you would see. That was really eye-opening. What else? The other thing that I thought was really, really helpful was I did a lot in student activities and affairs, which was helpful in understanding event planning, and then was able to hone those skills. So when I advised the Greek chapters later on in my career and now, that I have a really good understanding of event planning, helping them understand risk management, and a lot of the issues that they wouldn't necessarily think of because they're just not experienced yet. So there's a lot in there. And then definitely the judicial side, I was fortunate enough to help write some policies at various institutions I was at dealing with drugs and alcohol and risk management, and safety protocols. So I had a really good understanding of that and how colleges look at discipline and how they work, which really helps in my job as executive director now, because when I'm going into a situation to help our men with either poor behavioral choices they made or alleged behavioral choices they made when they didn't, it gives me a head start in this situation, if you would. I understand what's going on behind the scenes on their end, and I know how to engage them to hopefully diffuse the situation and get us to a common ground so we can mutually work to the benefit of our students, because they're not my students or their students, they're our students.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that's what makes you a great executive director, is that background, working in student activities, working in the Greek life office. You certainly understand what motivates the people that work in that office. You understand where they're coming from. So I think it gives you an opportunity to come to a place of mutual understanding and agreement somewhere in the middle. So I think that's super helpful. I had to learn a lot of that on the fly. Now I work, with higher ed partners all over the country. So today I have a much better understanding of it. Coming into it, you just don't know what you don't know, right? So that's
Right.
always interesting for me to kind of look back at it. And I also know you eventually went back to school at IUP and you got your doctorate in administration and leadership studies. So congratulations on that accomplishment. That's just amazing in itself. So what made you want to go back and get your doctorate, and how was that experience?
So I always wanted to get my doctorate, even when I was in my early days at Penn State. It was something I wanted to do, and something talking with my father and my mother that I needed to do. And I talked to my wife, and she said, if you want to go back, go ahead. And I wanted to get the stability that a doctorate brings. I mean, I hope I'm executive director for a long, long time, but hey, you never know. Winds change. And if it does, I can go back to a college campus or start my own consulting company or come work for you there at Greek University with my knowledge base. But I wanted to explore more of the leadership aspect of education, and going for the doctorate really allowed that to happen. And I was fortunate that majority of the work that I did for my doctorate, I was able to directly apply to KDR. And we basically, as part of my doctoral work, redid our whole new member education program, and I designed it from the ground up in collaboration with Plaid. So we're one of only 2 organizations right now that have their new member education system totally online, us and KA, Kappa Alpha. Which is really cool, because what it does now, it allows us to have a new member education program that is specific and individual to the person. It's not cookie cutter. They take the assessment with the Berkman that pulls out what their personalities are, and the modules go with that personality. So they're getting a one-of-a-kind tailored education program and leadership to their needs.
That's amazing. That is incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, for KDR to offer that to their membership, and Kappa Alpha, of course, as well, that's just light years ahead of what I'm seeing with other groups. Hopefully that everybody's going to start moving towards that model. I think it's an incredible model, and I'm sure it gives you a window into how your members are progressing as well, right?
Yeah, it does, because the way the system's set up is we can see where each person is on their path within the program, how they're doing on the information. And what it does is it takes the environment to another level that hopefully reduces the opportunities for hazing, because then the new member educator is no longer someone who has to do checklists. They're actually having conversations and being mentors, because they can go on to their program and see where these new members are not getting the information or what they're not understanding. So when it comes time for their pledge meetings, it's not just a recitation meeting. They're actually having an engaged dialogue on Robert's rules or risk management. And it's engaged into the point that they're starting their conversation into areas that they weren't getting correctly on the quizzes and the information that's tested within the system to hopefully advance their knowledge base. So it's not just sitting there watching power slides.
Right.
It's very It's very intuitive. And the nice thing about it, knowing how our students are today, millennial, uh, all the different generations are coming down the pike. You hear all these different nomenclatures for them, but they don't want to be in a meeting. They don't want just PowerPoint. And what's nice about our program, and I'm pretty sure with KA knowing how Plaid has done a great job in developing the delivery system, it's done on your phone. It could be on your tablet. It could be on your desktop or your laptop. It's mobile. And there's no different in the program because it scales to your screen. So that fits to basically the lifestyle of today's college student. It's taken them to the next level when everything is digital.
Yeah, that's really nice. And it's almost like an early warning system to you at the headquarters. If there's a problem, you're alerted to that pretty early.
Yeah, we are. I mean, and we can go along the process. And then if we see people who aren't getting initiated and they didn't take the test, that allows us to engage with the chapter to say, hey, what's going on? Or being preventative and making sure that, we're doing our best and making sure that we live up to our zero tolerance for hazing. If we're seeing a chapter that we know should be in week 3 of the program, week 4 in the program, and they're still stuck in week 1, well, that's a red flag. That allows our Deputy Executive Director, Lauren Hopkins, and our field staff to go engage that chapter and say, hey, what's going on? We're seeing this at the national level. What's going on in the ground? Is there issue interfacing? Or, and then we can talk with the Greek advisors. And one of the things that we're rolling out this year going into summer is we would like for all our Greek advisors to take the Berkman, and they'll have access to the Legion, which then that will allow them better insight to our presidents and their personality types and their leadership style. So hopefully that will bring those two pieces of the equation, the national, the local, and the college, closer together and understanding how to work with each other.
Yeah. What you're talking about is the future. I love where KDR is at right now. And I think a lot of universities are going to listen to this and say, wow, that's really attractive. That gives us a lot of information. And that's kind of unique in terms of what fraternities are bringing today. So I love it. I know you launched a 5-year strategic plan for KDR back in 2012, which I know from personal experience, it's a very difficult thing to do because you have so many members with so many different opinions on what the direction of the organization should be, as well as new board members that are coming in frequently. And these new board members have new and different ideas than their predecessors. So were you actually able to execute the bulk of the strategic plan back in 2012?
Yes, so we were. We're very blessed as an organization to have a very stable board. Our national president, who at the time wasn't president, he was a board member, but he was the chair of the plan at that time, is Gene Spencer, and he's actually the chief information officer at Ursinus College in Collegeville, PA. And for his profession, he does a lot of the development workshops with boards and strategic planning, and we were able to put together a very progressive strategic plan. And with his guidance and the board's commitment and our undergraduates' commitment, we were able to complete about 85% of that plan. That's really put us into position to launch to the next step, which we have started. We reinstituted a strategic planning committee, and we're looking at the next 5 years. Okay, what didn't we exactly get right in the last plan? What we did finish, and then where are we positioned to go next? And we're putting that all together now with the goal of between next January and convention in 2020, that we'll be ready to launch. Probably here's where we're going in the next 5 years.
I'm proud of you. That's amazing work on your part and the board. And I think that consistency is really the reason why you're getting the output, right? I think that's fantastic. I know you've had significant growth in terms of undergraduate membership. You currently have 37 chapters of KDR, over 25,000 initiated members. So what do you attribute this growth in undergraduate membership to?
I think it's a commitment to excellence on our part. When I came on as executive director, we were down to 22 organizations, and we really need to look at what was the product that we were selling as an organization, our educational programs. And as you know, from our personal relationship, we've done a lot of work in that area to really ramp that up and provide value. And we were going out and speaking to the college students and really grow. And the motto that I have myself is we're big enough to make a difference, but we're small enough to care. Where some of these other organizations, which they're all great, they're so big they don't have time really to think about, the one person on campus or one chapter president. Where we're small enough that we can take the time to mentor these men more directly, to start building, and then really look at where we're going on a chapter. And we took some pages out of Beta Theta Pi's expansion when Judd Horace was there as executive director, which he did an awesome job as Beta Theta Pi. He's doing a great job at NIC of having someone go and live on campus for the semester to really get in part of the culture and then have that person lead a recruitment. So we've been doing that, and it's been really successful. It's been successful at JMU. We're at Ohio State now, College of New Jersey we're starting, and we're just this weekend coming up, we're rechartering our chapter at Berkeley, our Lambda chapter. So it's going really, really well. Really excited.
Congratulations. Those are all great campuses. I know also you managed the fraternity in a time when there was really large accounts receivable with the chapters, and then you were able to get that back under control at the headquarters. So how did you work with the chapters? How did you work with the students in order to make that happen?
So it was a combination of trying to help them understand the financial obligations and having some authentic discussions at Leadership Academy. We have a Consuls Academy, President's Academy, if you will, and convention, and have them understand the operations of the national. Like, if you're all not paying your dues, we can't come out and help you and assist you. Like, there's a direct correlation here. But then we also looked at what we were doing for our intake process. And we took a page out of what our sorority counterparts do with our online registration. So we have financial responsibility form that they sign when they join now. We allow them to make payment plans so they know up in advance and they make it. We're fine with that, understanding that things are tight. It's college. It's not your most lucrative time in your career where money's coming in. So, we let them know that we want to work with them, but there's accountability. I mean, don't sit there and take advantage of us, because we're not going to allow that. And if you do, we send them to collections. I mean, just like anything else in life, if you're not making good on your responsibilities and obligations, and you're not being authentic and honest with the other side, you're going to go to collections. And that's what we do. And one of our partners that we've worked with now for 2 years to take it to the next level is Legacy Financial. And JB Goll at Legacy Financial is doing a great job there, and he's been a really good partner in helping us take it to the next level with the online business financial management of the organization.
That's fantastic. I think one of the reasons why you've had so much success at KDR is really the board of directors and that consistency that you talked about earlier. So what types of people do you have on the board of directors in terms of their backgrounds, and how do they help guide the organization?
So we're very blessed, at least from my experience. We're less business on our board, from business professions on our fraternity board, and more student affairs, college-related professions. For example, we have the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs from Towson is our Vice President for Education, Matt Leno. Our National President's the CIO, Chief Information Officer for Your Sinus College. We had on our board, but he timed out, John Capella, who's the Director of Student Activities at University of North Carolina, Wilmington. We have several brothers who are on there getting their doctorate. So the nice thing about our board is they're coming to the table with a good understanding of what's going on in college campuses. So I don't need to spend time in educating them on what's going on. They already know. So half my battle's already fought. So then it's like, hey, how do we take care of this financially and get to where we need to be? And then get with the students to get their input to find out, are we on the right track, or is there a generational disconnect? Because we're seeing one thing, we need to go here. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not happening. That's not where we want to go. But that's been really the beauty of our success, is having a lot of experience, not only myself as exec with my previous professional experience, but the board itself, the experience that we're having. We have a really good balance of men who are in the profession of higher education in one aspect or another, and men who are in the business field. I would say that's been the secret to our success.
I love it. They have their finger on the pulse of the undergraduates, what's happening within higher education. I absolutely love it. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I know that risk management, that's something that you've done numerous presentations on throughout your career. So what types of things do chapters of fraternities in general, what do they need to do differently in order to be successful this year in 2019 and then to grow into the future?
So for us to address risk management issues or behavioral decisions, we need to look at it from a different perspective. One of the things we're doing at KDR that's at the forefront from some of our peers is we're looking at mental health awareness and suicide prevention as a way to help address our risk management. And some people might be saying, well, where I don't understand the connection. Well, if you look at the population now, the people who are going to campus, they are more in tune to what's going on in their lives from a mental health aspect. They're coming to campuses already with diagnosed issues that are diagnosed that they're taking medication for that we'd never seen before. I mean, and what I believe personally is a lot of the issues that we're seeing on campus that deal with risk management and some poor behavioral choices of drinking to excess and being hospitalized and various other issues is partly mental health, that we're seeing the tip of the iceberg, but we're not seeing the below part. So, what's really causing this? We're only seeing the final result. But is there a way that we as brothers and sisters from the sorority level and as a community, a higher education community, attack that by really going to the core and helping these students who are calling out for help? They're just not doing it in an appropriate way or getting help the correct way because they're getting their help in 12-ounce bottle or prescription medicines that aren't theirs. And, horrific situations are occurring before that. Because if you look at the stats, just the American College Health Association, they give out a national college health assessment each year. And in the past year, 62% of our college students are reporting being overwhelmed anxiety. So if you take that number and you put it to our membership, that's 1,000 of our undergraduates right now are really facing that. And then if you look at, students who are so depressed that it's difficult to function, that assessment says 40% of our college students are in that area. So if you took that and applied it to KDR, I mean, 646 of my undergraduate brothers are in that state or could be in that state. And then 29% have reported they've been diagnosed or they're under treatment for a mental health concern. That's 468 of my men. And then 11.5% had serious thoughts of suicide. That's 186 of my men who are thinking about ending their lives. And all that has a direct correlation to what we're seeing in our chapters for risk management. And for us not to look at it that way, I think we're doing injustice to our community. We're not living our values and being our brother's keeper. So in the next coming years, you'll see KDR really addressing this from a mental health perspective of getting the help that the men might need to understand it. Of course, we'll have the risk management training of helping them understand why you shouldn't be drinking, the health concerns with that, and the legal aspect. But we want to go to a more holistic approach. So that's where we're going.
I love that you translate it to how many of your brothers are actually affected by this, because then it really gives it a face and a name in terms of some of these people that potentially are affected by all of these things. Traditionally, mental health within fraternities has never really been a focus point. It's not something that has traditionally been discussed in new member education programs. But now I'm starting to see the tide shift and a lot more are starting to get on board with this, whether it be at leadership conferences or conventions or what have you. And now we're starting to look to build it within the new member education program. So I think that's fantastic. I really do. So I know that you've been with KDR since 2007, and this might be an uncomfortable question for you, but what do you think your legacy is going to be within KDR and also the larger fraternal community?
So within KDR, my goal has always been to make it better than it was when I got there. I had the unfortunate experience of not having a pleasant new member education experience. And I swore if I had the opportunity that that would not happen to anyone else. So I'm very diligent on that. I know I'm not going to be able to stop everything, but at least I can say on my watch that I've made it better, and I made sure that our new member experience is more holistic, educational, and not what I experienced. So I hope that's part of my legacy, and part of my legacy is to get us to keep moving forward and thinking outside the box so that we're here for another 100 years. Within the fraternal community, I like to think that, I'm someone who is a change agent that doesn't have a problem speaking their mind, which anyone who knows me knows I don't have a problem speaking my mind. But I want to use it for good and get us to a place where, the fraternal community is seen as a collaborative partner on campuses more so than it is now, and help put out there the communication pieces and the message that, being in a fraternity or a fraternal organization is still a positive in today's society. That if you don't have that experience, you're missing out. And, to quote Pete Smith-Hissler, who was the past executive director at NIC, the fraternal experience is like the best experience you can have when it's done right. I'm paraphrasing it, but he's truly spot on when he says that.
Yeah. He's a mentor of mine. He's been on Fraternity Foodie, and we actually asked him that question in the interview. Does he still think that? So for those who are Pete Smith-Heiser fans, definitely tune in and check that out. That's a really interesting moment. So you and I know we share a love of food, really good food. Let's assume that we find ourselves in Philadelphia. You've spent a ton of time in that area of the country.
Right.
Where should we be going in order to get food in Philadelphia? What should we be ordering there?
Geez. So if you want Italian food, the best Italian food you're ever going to get is a little restaurant in the Italian market on 9th Street called Villa di Roma. They only take cash, and it only sits about 10, 15 people. So it's, the whole stereotype of like looking like a mob run bar or restaurant. But it's the best food, hands down, that you will ever have when it comes to Italian. And then if it's sports food, I grew up with the owner in string bands. As you know, I'm a Philadelphia mummer. Chicken and Pete's. You're not going to go better than Chicken and Pete's for any type of bar food. But definitely Villa di Roma or Chicken and Pete's would be my direction to send you.
Beautiful. Villa di Roma, make sure you bring cash, right? No credit cards accepted.
No credit card. Still old school.
It's so old school. I'm going to be washing dishes in the back after I eat.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So, Joe, if anybody in the audience wants to reach out to you, maybe they have some questions, maybe they want to join KDR on their campus where you already have a chapter, or maybe they want to bring KDR to their campus after everything that they heard and they think that this is a good fit for their university, what's the best place to get more information?
So the best place, you go to KDR.com. We have a lot of information on our website, or you can just email me direct, executive director at KDR.com. I'm not as hip as some. I'm starting to get there with the Instagram or Finstagram and all that. But the best place for me is email, executive director at KDR.com.
That's excellent. Joe, I think the world of you. I think you're an amazing man. I think you've done amazing things for KDR. You've helped me along the way, and I think you're doing amazing things for the greater fraternity community. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the fraternity men out there, not just KDR, but all over the country that don't even realize that you're out there fighting for them. I want to say thank you on their behalf. Thank you, from me, because I know that you worked with me over the years, and I appreciate our friendship. I always look forward to times when we can kick back, have a beer, and enjoy some good food together. So I'm looking forward to the next time that happens. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
No problem. You're welcome. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you to the audience. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you on the next edition of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.